Hello and welcome to the show. We hear a lot of people talk these days about how unlikely it is that a person will work for the same company for, say, decades throughout their entire career and then retire from that company. If you live around here in the Wenatchee Valley, you know there are a few places where that's still possible. One of them is Chelan County PUD. On today's show, I want to celebrate and welcome Debbie Gallaher as she retires after 42 years with Chelan County PUD. She started as a file clerk in 1979. We'll also introduce you to the rest of her team and the person who will succeed her. Well, I've been trying to track you down for a bit, Debbie, wanting to have you on the show. So thanks for joining us. I want to celebrate you today, and I'm just glad to be able to be part of the celebration of your retirement. So thanks for being here.
Well, thanks, Lisa. It's nice being with you again. We did this a few years ago, so
how long ago was it? It was on my radio show on KPQ, so it had to have been at least, 12 or so years ago, 12 to 15 years ago.
Yeah, it was. It was when I was with the wellness place, and I think that's where you and I met.
Yes, through the steering committee.
That's right.
Right.
Yes.
Well, and so we'll mention also that you are a cancer survivor. How long has it been now?
21 years.
21. I just celebrated 25 when I turned 50.
Wow, that's wonderful.
It is good, isn't it?
It is good.
It's the one thing that the further away you get from, the happier you get, right?
That's right. That's right. You won't forget it.
No.
But it's nice to have those years separate from that first diagnosis and no reoccurrence.
Well, let's talk about quickly your role at Wellness Place, because you've been in this community for a long time. How long have you lived in Wenatchee?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm going to give away my age. So, well, I've been in Wenatchee for 60 years, but I did go away. I went away for a year or two for school. And then after that, I lived in Texas, and I lived in Kansas, and I lived in San Francisco, and I eventually came back here. Gotcha. I came back in 1978.
Okay. And then, so just for timeline purposes, so then, well, we're going to talk about that. You've been at the PUD now since 1979.
Correct.
But you are a cancer survivor. So you worked in with Wellness Place. And what was your role there with Wellness Place for people who don't know?
Well, I got involved with the Wellness Place when it first began, and really it was a great support group for me. But really, my primary role with the Wellness Place was the steering committee.
Mm-hmm. So we help plan events and different things, annual events and other things.
Yeah, and being a mentor. So I mentored many women who were newly diagnosed with breast cancer.
Mm-hmm. I find that, I know at least for me, when I was diagnosed with cancer, I was 24 years old, and I felt like I would have climbed in the lap of someone who would share their story. And the longer they'd been well, the more I wanted to hear. So I know how important it is to have those relationships. Plus, we worked with a great group of people on that steering committee, and they've gone on to do wonderful things and continue to do wonderful things for the cancer patients and families in our community. So that is how you and I met all those years ago. And you look exactly the same. Exactly the same.
Well, thank you.
Lovely. Okay, so let's hop to the PUD. So you started working at the PUD in 1979, a year after you returned to the area. And what I love about your story is you started as a file clerk. And I'm wondering if back then, I know these days, I've lived here 17 years, and I know from people in the community and having lived here a long time that working for the PUD for a lot of people is a goal. And once you get in, you work your way through. Was it that way back in 1979? Was it as a sought after position, any position you could get with the PUD and then work your way up?
Well, honestly, you know what, and I need to retract. I moved back to Washington in 1976. It was not 78, because I started thinking about this, because I came from the Douglas County Sheriff's Office.
Oh, right.
So what attracted me to the position at Chelan County PUD, I was doing rotating shifts with the Sheriff's Office. I was a jailer dispatcher. Right. And I loved the job, but you know, you would work 2 months on swing, 2 months on days, 2 months on graveyard, and you worked holidays, and your weekend was always in the middle of the week. So when I saw this job advertised, I thought, oh, Monday through Friday, holidays off. And I thought, for as fast and as accurate as I had to type at the sheriff's office, because back then, of course, this was pre 911 and Rivercom. And so I had an old Royal Ambassador manual typewriter. And so everything, when I was communicating with the deputies, everything had to be typed accurately on that log because it was given to the newspapers as well. So I thought, if I can do that at the sheriff's office, I'm sure I could pass the typing test at the PUD. And it was, you know, it was a great job. It was 8 to 5 and weekends off. And so really, you know, in all honesty, that's what made me go and apply.
And you have 2 kids, right?
I do. I have a son, Bob. He teaches at Eastmont High School. And then my daughter, Allison, works for Tibetan Dental Care.
So I know your son, Bob, because he is one of my son's all-time favorite teachers and baseball coaches. And
Yes.
my son Hunter's actually coached with Gallaher. That's what we call him around here. And Bob, of course. And then, of course, I have met Allison because I'm a huge fan of Chief Fitness. So, and
right.
he and her husband.
Yes.
So you have a lovely family.
Oh,
and
thank you.
This career has afforded you time with them and the flexibility that you needed. So what I want to get to now, we are going to also, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, have Bob, who is the person that's going to help bridge your departure with Kristin's coming on board. So let's take a break. When we come back, we'll have Bob share a bit of his story, but also we'll let you talk about your transition into the position that you're now leaving. When is your last day?
Friday, December 3rd.
Yeah, so it's coming up next.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, this will air next week. So this is your last week, technically.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take a break and we'll come back. We'll join Bob and we'll talk about your visitor service manager position that you're retiring from after 42 years with the PUD. We'll be back in just a moment. We've been talking with Debbie Gallaher. She is retiring from the PUD after 42 years working for them. She started as a file clerk and ended up as the visitor services manager for Rocky Reach Dam. Joining the show now is Bob Bauer. He is the outreach education specialist, and he has been with the PUD for 18 years, and he and Debbie have worked closely together for quite some time now. Thanks for joining us, Bob.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me be a part of this transition here.
Yes, for sure. Well, let's inform the audience, Debbie, a little bit about what your role as a visitor service manager is. I've seen your work up close. I visited the dam, Rocky Reach Dam, but tell us, for those who don't know, the work that you've done there.
Well, you know, it hasn't been the work that I've just done. It's been a team project. So I manage education and outreach and work closely with Bob. So Bob is he's the imagination behind so many of these programs. And of course, together, all Bob and I need, we need a whiteboard and some markers and some quiet time, and the two of us can come up with just about anything. Some of it has been great. We call everything that we do the first time a pilot. That way, if it doesn't work out, no harm, no foul, we move on to the next thing. But we both have always had a vision to reach out and do something different, you know, something with education really along what our core job is all about, a clean, renewable hydro. And so we've come up with all kinds of programs over the years, and that's pretty much it, really.
So you two are, when we come into the visitor service, any area where visitors come, from an education point of view, you two have been part of that.
Always.
Correct.
You're leading the path for that, actually.
Right. Well, we've always called it the Bob and Debbie show. So
that's good. Okay, so now Bob, let's talk about your role and how you and Debbie have worked together all of these years. You've been there 18 years. She's been there 42. Let's talk about your role for a minute.
Sure. So I'm the outreach education specialist. So I'm somewhat responsible for all of the education that takes place in the classrooms. So we spend a lot of time out in the classrooms, both in public and private schools throughout Chelan County and even into Douglas County and other places too. And then we also have our on-site education, which is everything from Summer Science Adventure Week for kids to come out and spend a week with us, learning all kinds of STEM-related activities, up to and including a STEM Hydro Career Academy for high school students, where they come out, spend a week with us. If they're coming from a distance, they stay with our employees' families, kind of like an exchange student. They get college credit for attending this STEM academy. So we do everything kind of, we call it from, this is my phrase, from womb to the tomb or cradle to the grave. One day we're crisscross applesauce with preschoolers on the floor. The next day we're with 8th graders doing an 8th grade science project with them. The next day we're with an engineering class from a vocational technical school. And so the way Debbie and I have kind of always approached things, number one is our passion for what Chelan County PUD is all about. The recognition that we are not a for-profit business in the community. We're a partner of the community. And we love showcasing the marvel of the Columbia River, of hydropower, and all of our partnerships with the community. And so when you put those two things together, just our passion and the great story we have to tell, I've never driven to work on any single morning thinking, boy, I just dread going to work today.
Good.
The work atmosphere, yeah, it's a family. And I'll say this about Debbie Gallaher, because this is kind of about her and her long journey with Chelan County PUD. You can have the greatest natural resource in the world, and we've got that in many ways in the Columbia River. You can have all of the other resources that we have, whether it's mechanical equipment, computer technology, but you can have all of those resources, and if you're missing the human resource, you're missing the boat. And what Debbie has brought to Chelan County PUD and to our department here, I usually don't get emotional, but I've fallen in love with the work ethic and Debbie's ability to treat her staff as family, as friends. And it's a mother hen figure. I don't want to give you the wrong impression there. She can sit you down when you need to be sat down, but she congratulates you when you should be congratulated. And she'll always go the extra mile to protect her employees if she thinks her employees are being hurt. So she's everything and has been for me for 18 years, watching her interact with all of the different people. I mean, we've hired so many tour guides and utility people, and, you know, because you come in on those ground level positions, and like you mentioned earlier, you want to branch out and take your career to the next step. So we're kind of an entry level place for different employees.
For many.
And I've just watched Debbie mentor and develop and build character in employees. And it's just been one incredible success story. And I know you probably weren't wanting to go in that direction of the two of us getting emotional, and I didn't even think about that.
It's good. It's whatever it's supposed to be. I agree with that. I think that my interactions with you, Debbie, have been intermittent throughout the years, but always just a delight to be near you. So in the work that we did together, as we mentioned through Wellness Place, to get to work with you every day, I imagine that's been a privilege for you, Bob. So for sure.
Absolutely.
I will say
that goes both ways.
Yes, I'm sure
it goes both ways. When we were interviewing for this position, which was shortly after I took over, and I didn't know Bob well, but I had heard him speak before. And I saw that application. To quote Bob, I knew that I knew that I knew. I mean, I had this little cloud over my head of who I wanted for that education person. It had to be somebody who is charismatic, somebody who could really attract all age levels. And so that was Bob Bauer. I have no regrets on the decision that we made 18 years ago when we hired Bob Bauer.
Perfect.
To be our education specialist.
That's good. It's good. It's obvious you have enjoyed your work. It's probably hard to know when to leave, right, Debbie? Because you enjoy your work so much. I think about the dam itself. So what brought me to Washington is my dad worked on the generators, and he started at Shasta Dam, where I grew up in Redding, California. And then he worked not for any PUD, but for the contractors that would take care of rewinding the generators. And sometimes the projects were 6 months and sometimes they turned out to be a few years. But I think he's worked on every single dam from Shasta Dam in Redding to Canada, with the exception of maybe Rocky Reach, actually.
Oh, really?
I think that might be the only one. But so I've visited the dams. I've gone down into where the energy is made. I've seen, the pounds, thousands of pounds of water that come through there, tons of water that comes through there. And just to get to understand a bit of how that works and to work for a place like that, what has that meant to both of you? Because it is something special that we have in our state and in our community right here. So many dams right here. Not to mention it makes power a lot less expensive.
That's right. That's the other great thing about Bob Bauer. Bob has this uncanny way of being able to explain to people how falling water can turn on a light bulb. And I mean, it's about the basketballs that are falling over. So take it away, Bob.
So you're in.
Yeah, tell us that. Tell us what that. Explain that to people who want that analogy.
So your question is about the project. And so right here, just about 7 miles north of Wenatchee, is Rocky Reach Dam. And it happens to be a facility that was built between 1956 and 1961, $270 million turnkey operation. For that $270 million, you've got 4 billion pounds of concrete in the river. From the top of the dam to the bedrocks, about 218 feet. So take Rocky Reach out of the river, set it next to the highway. It's a 21-story tall building. And when they put that wall in the river, now you've got the water on one side of the wall that's 100 feet higher than the water on the other side of the wall, which means if we're running all 11 units, we can drop about 88 million gallons of water a minute. And we can turn about 28 million pounds of steel, and we can generate power. And the water that is turning a turbine at Rocky Reach right now, that generation unit can turn on any light bulb in any house from Canada to Mexico, California to Montana in less than a second. And so it's just this amazing technology that's so complex, and yet it's so simple. So we can bring kids out here and we can coil some copper and we can run an earth magnet through there, and they can see a little bit of electrical generation. Then we just show them how we scale that up to great big generation units. And so it's just all about using this great natural resource we have, water, which is free, it's heavy, we can turn all of that weight, and it runs right through our motor, right? We're kind of a run of the river dam, so the fuel just goes right through our motor, and it enables us to do things that nobody else can really do. We can provide those 4 big ones. You ready? Clean, renewable, reliable, affordable energy that doesn't pollute the atmosphere. And we can do it very, very cost effectively. And in doing so, we can make sure all those little baby fish that have to migrate downstream can get downstream, and all those grown-up fish that have to get upstream to their natal streams to spawn can get up. So it's a wonderful story. And we think of ourselves kind of as the window to the soul of the PUD. If you really want to see what the PUD is all about, whether it's the technology, whether it's the natural resource, whether it's the career opportunities, whether it's all the benefits of public hydropower that go far beyond turning light bulbs on, right? There's fiber optics, and there's water, wastewater, and there's Apple Capitol Loop Trail, and there's softball fields and soccer fields and 15 parks that entertain 3 million visitors, and it goes on and on and on. And the stories you got to tell the story, right?
I can see why you hired him, Debbie.
Yeah, this is the place we tell the story.
That's right.
You have to have enthusiasm. Well, and it must be nice for you to know you're leaving everything in good hands. So let's.
Absolutely.
I love your description and your enthusiasm, Bob, and I love that Debbie can leave knowing that all things are in good hands. And let's then transition, take a break, and we come back. We'll have Debbie and Kristin Lodge. She will be replacing Debbie if that's possible, and she will be working with Bob going forward. Thanks for being here, Bob, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Thank you so much.
Joining Debbie and I now is Kristin Lodge. Kristin, you have the honor of taking over where Debbie has left off. And what was your role? You come from the museum. That's where you were working before coming to the PUD. And what was your role there?
I was the Director of Development and Communication, so I mainly did fundraising and marketing.
So it's a good transition for you, obviously.
Great fit.
Great fit. And Debbie, what played a role in the decision-making? You said you couldn't be more pleased with having hired Bob 18 years ago. What was a deciding factor? Some of the things you mentioned a full circle moment when we were off air about Kristin.
Well, when I saw Kristin's resume and when we interviewed Kristin, there again, I knew that I knew that I knew. Kristin came with, for somebody who's so young, she came with a wealth of experience. She has experience with in cultural education, her marketing, her communications. It all came together in this perfect package that I thought, that's the new me. I mean, I knew it when she spoke. She came extremely well prepared for that interview, and she blew me away. So I was thrilled, and it was exciting when our director, Dan Garrison, made that decision to hire Kristin. It was a hallelujah moment for me, so.
Well, that's exciting. I know, again, just like having Bob still there to, help with the transition, for people who are watching and think, oh, well, you're the person now, Kristin, that they contact about events or education partnerships. You still call the same office. It's just going to be you answering the phone instead of Debbie, right?
That's right. A new voice on the end of the phone, but the same excitement and enthusiasm and passion for connection in our community that they're used to.
Well, I'm excited for you, Debbie. I'm excited for you to get to make this transition, and all the congratulations. You are so loved in this community. You've worked your heart out for the PUD all these years. So I hope whatever you do next, you enjoy it thoroughly. Thank you for being on the show. And thank you for everything. And Kristin, and let Bob know if you ever need my help in getting the word out about anything, contact the show. I'm happy to help you with that.
Thanks for having us, Lisa. We'd love to take you up on that.
Sure. Take care, Debbie.
Thanks, Lisa. Okay,
yes,
thanks.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.